welcome. This is Toni Short coming to you live from New York City. I am on, I love it, 420. Thanks. This is a moment coming from God right now. I am live on Clubhouse and in my Bathed in Love club, and I am talking about faith, strengthening our relationship with the unseen. And I thought, since it's just me, that I would record this and share kind of my journey and where I'm at and what I feel about this and how it's sort of come to me. And if anyone joins, then we'll see what happens. But right now, God's given me this little window to play with you. So here we are. How did my journey with the unseen and faith begin? How I see it is, I had to come to my knees in order to find my faith. And I don't believe that's the way for everybody. I think everybody enters into the journey of faith and, the depths of faith in very different ways. But for me, it was absolutely through coming to my knees. How did I come to my knees? Well, anyone that hasn't heard this story before, over the course of 2015 to 2018, through a delicious and perfect storm of no boundaries, no self-worth, no sense of value of myself, no intuition, no connection with my intuition, and a narcissist romance scam, along with many other, maybe even some soul contracts, some Saturn return things, some living out some patterns of my parents, a whole lot of perfect storm things. I basically bankrupted myself emotionally, financially, energetically, sexually, the whole works. And this really was the moment for me to wake up. It was, there had been many signs coming before this, but I did not listen, and I was not ready, and I could not, get my head out of the sand, whatever you want to say. And I say all of this with the, the older narrator humor, because I think, what happened for me was one of the most incredible things of my life. I would never wish it upon anyone else. But at the same time, I know that it was given to me as a gift to help me really find out who I am, step into who I am, remember who I am, and also bring these gifts to the rest of the world to support the concept of consciousness. Again, I'm talking with an older narrator voice, but knowing my purpose now, that I'm here to support humans and brands, provide inspiration, provide guidance, counseling, all of those things, as part of the work that I do in my artistic explorations, in part of my sort of business, all the hats that I wear. I know that it's to bring consciousness to the world and to assist, the universe with waking up the planet. Okay, so let's get back to the details. So at that point of having that kind of breakdown, when everything got very dark, I remember my business partner was going, I'd always wanted to manifest so that I could take summers off. And if you think about the life that we're creating and sort of the things that we want in life, I was like, I want to create a company and a world for myself. So when it comes to summer, I can take it off and travel with my family, projecting forward to my impending family. And that was really important to me. So, this summer I was like, okay, what am I going to do? My business partner was going off to her project in the Hamptons, and I was like, okay, well, what am I going to do? So I was like, oh, I'm going to go volunteer, do something of service. I was like, okay, cool. And let's just, really paint this picture. I was an absolute mess at this moment. I was broken in every possible way. I was, and mostly so angry and sad about about myself and what I'd done to myself and how I'd called this in and how I hadn't seen all the signs, and how I'd not listened to my intuition. I was pretty angry and pretty hurt and pretty disappointed in myself, very much so. So I typed into Google, kids camp, volunteer, July, I think dance, music, something like that. And this camp came up in Haiti, which was amazing. I was like, great, I'm in. I've never been there. It was 2 weeks. It was like meditation, dance, all these things. It was perfect. So I was in. I paid the money. I stepped up. I got all the shots. I bought all these coloring books and pencils and sunscreen and bug spray and all of these things, and I was ready, and I was ready, and I was going to Haiti. Anyway, 24 hours before the whole thing canceled, the country went into civil unrest, and it was a pretty horrible time for the people in Haiti, and so this group decided to cancel. So I was basically left on my lounge room floor, just covered in, with all this stuff everywhere, and absolutely, rock bottom. So something, and this is where I think the journey, I think maybe became more clear or more, maybe obvious or something. I'm not quite sure, because if we dial it back a little bit too, prior to all of this, I was, I'd already started sort of looking into Abraham Hicks. My spiritual journey, or my sort of quest for knowledge and stuff around spirituality had already begun, and I was already, into things. I think, even if I'm honest, how I called in that relationship that sort of, brought everything to a head was through, going to bed every night and doing Abraham Hicks, calling in my soul partner and all of those things. Do I think he was my soulmate? Not really. Do I think it was, absolutely brought in to teach me something? 100%. Was it sort of a soul contract to kind of work some stuff out? Absolutely. And so I'd already started sort of playing with the unseen, but I didn't know if I didn't really have the language, or I wasn't really seeing it as that, or I also wasn't kind of aware of what, really what the journey was, or how I was engaging. Let's get clear, how I was engaging with the unseen. Okay, so camp cancels, I'm on the floor, I'm like, what the hell am I going to do? And something told me, the unseen, my guides, now again, older narrator, to put these 3 pieces of paper on the wall, and I kind of created a calendar of sorts and just started following breadcrumbs. All I remember saying to myself is breadcrumbs. I wanted to, there was a part of me that felt like I knew that I needed to heal. I, again, don't know if I use that language, but I was looking for ways to feel better and to follow the light. And so I started following all of the things that made me happy. I thought about all the things that I've always wanted to do. I got back into dancing. And really just the breadcrumbs kept falling. I was riding my bike, I'd taken my bike out of the basement. I had my hair in braids. I didn't really answer my phone. I was really on another planet. And I just followed all the signs. I was riding along the West Coast Highway. I saw the trapeze, so I went in and started that once a week. So that went in the calendar. I remember I got an email, and it was like, improv is good for learning how to public speak or something. I was like, great, I'm going to do that. So I went, and it wasn't normal improv, it was musical improv, which was just like, scared the pants off me. And every time it came round to my side, I would cry. But it felt something exhilarating at the same time, being sort of pushed forward in this sort of way to expand myself. So I joined up for 8 weeks of that. That went in the calendar. Someone had told me when I was really, really, really breaking and having, dark days, to write about everything I was going through. So I started to write all these poems and things. And when I got to that musical improv, they taught about song structure. So then I started switching the poems that I was writing into songs. I remember going to a hip hop improv class, which was amazing and very confronting in all the ways. Just, I think, you know, for 3 years in that relationship, and probably my whole life to some degree, I never really spoke up for my needs. You know, I was very, anyone that knows me knows me, I'm a very sort of extroverted and, you know, direct person, but there was a lot of that was maybe not really in tune with who I was and what I really needed on the inside, you know, whether or not it was just to sort of be like, you know, I've been known to say things like, you know, I'd rather drink champagne than go to the gym. You know, I was very many things, let's just say that. So at the hip hop improv, I remember seeing a sign that was like singing lessons, and how, you know, the person that did them talked about energy and things like that. So I was like, great, I'm gonna go and do singing lessons. And I turned up and she was like, what do you want to sing? And I was like, well, I have all these books and songs. So I basically like flopped out 100 journals, you know, or a hell of a lot of pages, that's for sure, of all these songs. And, you know, flipping through them and things like that, she was like, these are great, these are amazing, let's do something. So she had this incredible ability to sing and to, you know, make up the chords and create songs. So we basically would just sit there and it would just come through us, and in half an hour we'd be making a new song. Sometimes I'd hear the music, she'd hear the rhythm, the melody, all of those words. You know, I was so new, it was like beginner's mind on every level. And for anyone that's, you know, maybe thought about faith before from the angle of it's really a muscle. It's, you know, you don't go to the gym and start lifting weights like a crazy person. You know, you start and you create foundations. You know, you need to strengthen your back muscles to then, you know, do squats. You need to strengthen your legs to do big push-ups. You know, push the barbell up. You know, everything is connected, and so I started to see all of these different areas as strengthening the muscles with the unseen, like following the signs, leaning into my intuition, trusting that, and actually, you know, really tuning that of like, do I really want to do that, or is that what I think I meant to do? And having more courage, I think, you know, even through the improv stuff, that really helped me speak up for myself, you know, kind of yes, no, maybe, okay, all of those things. So the singing lessons, then actually one of the other things that I'd always wanted to do was sort of DJing, and on like Course Horse or something like that, I found beat making. So I went to this producer's house, and after I started making these songs, I said to him, why could I come and start recording these songs? So I went into the studio with him, and, you know, a lot of this, I didn't even know what I was doing. All I knew it was making me feel good. And as I was strengthening that muscle, you know, I started to see how these weren't accidents, all of these people, you know, like they were literally being put up in front of me for me to see. And only when my eyes were open. And I think anyone, again, that started this consciousness journey, whatever you want to call it, ascension, following your heart, you know, living your purpose, being your best self, being your highest self, like the words are all the same. Let's just get real for a minute. Like unconsciousness, consciousness, ascension, heart, love, fear, it's all the same stuff. Everybody is selling the same stuff. So my quest for knowledge and thirst for sort of learning about this sort of spiritual world, and I also started to dig into, again, following sort of breadcrumbs and signs, you know, I want to say, I started learning about astrology. I started learning about secret language of birthdays, numerology, all of these different things to further my understanding of myself. That's really it. I think that's another strengthening of the unseen. When you understand yourself, you can operate from a different place. Like there's a sort of a different groundedness, a different power, strength, because you really know who you are and what you want and what you don't want. So, you know, there's this kind of duality concept of like learning who you are and then having the courage to step into it. So this was all very intertwined for me on this quest. And as I was learning about all these other things, I would, you know, start to see myself differently in how I was interacting in situations. I started asking everybody I was working with, or friends, what their star sign was. I looked at my parents, my grandparents, my brother, all of these people, to really learn more about myself, so that I could learn about myself in relation to them, but also learn about them to see how I could communicate, how I could connect with them differently and better, let's say. And my North Node is in Scorpio, which is, they say your North Node is your life's purpose, where you're going, and therefore Scorpio is about sort of everything, all the deep, dark shadows, the sort of occult, the underbelly, and oh, bless me. It's interesting that came out. So for me, I started turning over every rock about everything I could find out about spirituality. I went to Tony Robbins. I went to, Gabby Bernstein stuff. I, started to learn. I started to open my eyes and increase my awareness in every possible way. I was hungrily looking out everywhere I went for signs and signals, and that is what strengthened. And I was committed to that. There was this conversation that I had with a couple of people around, I wanted to be one Toni. I wanted to be the same Toni that was with my friends, my partner, my mom, my dad, my work. I didn't want to be different versions of myself. So I really committed to what that meant and for me, and how I could start developing that. And those things all intertwined into sort of like trusting and strengthening that relationship with the unseen. And I started to test myself. I think anyone that's new, or anyone that's in the manifestation journey, let's say, not new by any means, is I felt like when I was early on in it, I started to test myself. I'd be like, I'm thinking about Fred, and then I would test to see if Fred called. And now, I only have to sort of just have a quick second thought about someone, and not long after they text or phone or call or follow up with the answer that I was looking for. And not always, but very, very often. And so those tests continue to also strengthen the muscle. Those tests confirmed for me the journey that I was on, the beauty of this sort of dance with the universe that I was in, and this ability to trust it. And so as I threw more things out, and then they came back to me, I was able to trust it in a way that was so yes, powerful, but I don't know, maybe enlightening. It was sort of like, ooh, this is interesting. And so I just started having fun, and I would throw it out in all different ways, in all different places. And that's really, kind of what it was. And I started to build on of that. And, that calendar that I put, I filled it up with all of these different ways to feel good, to follow my heart, to try all the things that I'd loved, to try new things, to extend and expand myself, to sort of push myself on limits that helped me learn something more about myself. I watched in the improv when, whenever it came around to me, I would see myself look at the teacher looking for approval, and I was like, what's up with that? And it was only through seeing it in that, the way it showed up in that way, that I was like, well, that's not cool. And cool, do whatever you want, but for me, that was indicative of something inside of me that was looking for some sort of approval in what I said, versus trusting what I said, and trusting and allowing whatever came out and being okay with it. There's a little bit 0 FUCKs, and there's a little bit of sort of just really digging into whatever comes out of my voice. If I'm in trust with myself, then whatever comes out is exactly what's meant to come out. And that's a pretty powerful place to live. So again, all of that would help me strengthen that muscle. And then, I started to see regular signs. I don't know if anyone sees numbers. I've had an incredible journey with numbers, 1111, the 333, all of them. There's been days and weeks where I've gone like every morning and night with seeing, 1212 or something like that. I started this with 420. That's always a funny one for me. I think that numbers, not only they have sort of, you can Google what they all mean to some degree, but for me, I started to understand them and see them as a place of expansion, as a place of confirmation, and another signal and sign that I was on the right track, whatever that means. And if we just pause for a minute to take all of that in, I know I'm speaking kind of with a click. I was about to say the other word, a click. I'm thinking of a speed. Hilarious. Trying to get the word, and it just paused with me. I'm having a moment of embarrassment that I'm like fiddling over my words. How's it going out there? Isn't this world mad? Is this a sign for you that you're on the right track? I'm just going to shift gears for a second and just lean into my voice and my own nervous system and bring it down. So thank you for listening. If you got this far, and if you didn't, this is a sign, even though you can't hear me, that you're on the right track. Everything happens exactly when and how. There's no accidents. If you're listening today, there's no accident that you're here. Whatever this is bringing for you is no accident. We're all kind of open to receiving messages and connections every day. And those, messages in the time were sort of not only moments of expansion where I could lean into, and by the way, if anyone's wondering, I hung up on Clubhouse because nobody came, so it's just you and me. I know there's all these rules and regs, but out of respect, I'm just with you at this moment. So I'm going to keep chatting, and you'll probably find this up on my YouTube. So I'm going to just keep rolling. It also became more than just numbers. It was people, it was names, it was photos, images. I always see NASA, I always see AC/DC. That's funny. All through Chile over the last 3 months on my travels, I would see people almost every day with a AC/DC. And let's get real too. I ask myself a lot of times, am I just making this up? Don't get me wrong. And then I would test myself with that. I'm like, okay, if I'm making this up, send me a sign. Or if I'm not, it's a little bit like if you get a sign, it's like, is that a yes or a no? I think you just start to tune in and I think that's the biggest thing about this journey is inside of you what is real, what's not real, what you're making up, what you're sort of fabricating. If we look at the vibrational discord in our body that comes when we're not in truth with ourselves, I mean, we've all been there. When you see a friend that's like crying, I'm not laughing, but I'm laughing. When they're crying over like a dude that's like done something, or, I'm saying a dude because most of my friends are dudes, girl, guy, things, but anything, it comes out in many ways. And like maybe they're not at a place they're ready to see it, but sort of what they're crying about is like a little bit, full of BS, in a sense that they're fooling themselves, or they're not awake to their own story, or they're creating a narrative that isn't true and they're believing it and they're just like going with it. We've all been there. And so that's an interesting place, I think, to look at when you're in vibrational discord. What does that mean? Like when you're not in truth with yourself, when you're not in alignment with yourself, they're all the same words. But you can feel it. You can feel when you're believing something that isn't true because you want it so badly. And I mean, and that's, I think, also is another kind of, maybe now that I'm saying this to you, you might notice that in your own lives. Everything about awareness is noticing, and that's the first step in everything. Noticing um, what feels good in your body. It's about a feeling. When you meet someone and they're kind of weird and you have a bad feeling, you feel it in your body first, and as we can kind of tune in with ourselves, we start to see and feel our way through lives a bit more out, and we can make better decisions based on how we feel. I'm sure people have got in a taxi that hasn't felt right before, and I trust that you've got out, or you've met someone on the street, and sometimes you'll talk to any random person. I certainly do, but then other times you're like, I'm not feeling good about this person. So that's a sign, and that comes reflected in our bodies, and our bodies are our greatest antennas. I have a beautiful friend, Camilla. We're talking next week on Clubhouse about that we are a communication device, and our body is constantly talking to us, and it's ourselves that we choose to not listen, because we just get blinded to the light. We want what we want. Oh, pardon me. Has anybody been getting up early and doing that sort of time with God in the morning? That's another way. Prayer. I think one of the girls on our conversation yesterday about leaning into our gifts, and I'm all over the place. So for anyone that's just having a moment of like, where's she going? I got you, okay? Stay with me. I love you, and this is all great, and we're exactly here to get what we need, and this will be delivered in whatever shape and form it will. But I promise you, I'm going to circle back. She was talking about, sometimes the lessons that come through, and we want something, we pray for something, and then it doesn't come through, and then you realize later that was being withheld for you so that you could have it at another time where you might appreciate it more, or you might be in a better place to handle it, or whatever the sort of words are. And the concept of prayer and faith is it kind of goes in hand, because you're basically giving out your hopes and dreams and visions to someone that you can't see, and even if it's an altar, to something out there. And I think that takes courage, and it takes commitment, because it's very easy to do it once or twice and be like, whatever, and it doesn't work, or you don't get what you want, and then you're like, this is bollocks, blah blah blah. But the courage to continue, the commitment to continue, is showing up for yourself, which is building that muscle of the faith and the unseen, and giving them a signal that you are committed to this. And for me, my nightly prayers, I basically sit by my bedside every night, and I've been doing this for years, and no matter what sort of tired state I'm in, I really commit to this. I write something in my journal, either a poem or just how I'm feeling, if I'm tired, or one word or nothing, scribbles or a picture or something. And then I pray. I say the serenity prayer, and then I talk to God or universe, whatever your words are, and say what I'm feeling, or sometimes I reflect the serenity prayer, and like, this is what I'm not able to change right now, and I just want to tell you about it. And I took this on as a committed part of my life, to knowing that the results that were coming from this were going to transform my life and expand me and bring all the things I wanted. Like, I don't want to go as far as saying that if you don't pray, you won't be able to manifest, or if you don't pray, your dreams won't come true, because that's not my place to say at all. LOL. But what is my place to say is, for me, that has greatly worked. That has greatly resulted in changes that have opened up incredible opportunities for me. not only just how I feel emotionally and personally in my own skin, but also sort of the synchronistic moments that then have delivered people to help me work through things, or situations to further my dreams and career and hopes and wishes, and moments for me to really tune in and be like, wow, look at what I have and how abundant my life is. Whether it's the sun coming through, a bird landing in front of me, you start to see all these signs and signals. So as much as I saw numbers, I also saw signs and words. I have a couple of special words that they turn up in people's names or books and places and things. And I began to really trust that they were more scenes from the unseen, and they were additional ways for me to strengthen this muscle, and they were there for me to further me along the breadcrumbs trail. So, taking you back to the camp concept that I started creating for myself, this 3 months of writing. I started a memoirs course, the trapeze. I even scheduled in times to sleep and bathe and rest and go to the park and ride my bike. I really allowed myself and gave myself permission to do all of these things, which continue to strengthen my faith. And then, all the while testing myself, thinking about Fred. Okay, Fred, if Fred's really real and I meant to talk to him, then a message would come up for Fred. And so I started playing with all of that. This dance we're all doing with the universe is very special. And when you maybe start to engage with it in that way, I feel like the universe gives you back all of these gifts and signs back. And when your eyes are open and you're aware and you're able to keep your heart open and not think you know how things work, or be so tight with the control, or curious about what these signs meant, like maybe some of them, there's been lots of things too that have been me getting a sign and then thinking it was something else. Like, okay, I feel like, I don't know who it was, some podcast I listened to, this girl, Deja Blue, an English girl. She's super cool. And she interviewed a girlfriend of hers that had been through some stuff. And that girlfriend started watching Outlander, and apparently there's a really gorgeous guy on there. And when she was watching that show, she was like, oh my God, I'm meant to be with him. And she was like, it's a sign. And in the end, it wasn't a sign that she was meant to be with that guy specifically, but it was a sign that she was, calling in a soul connection, calling in someone who had similar properties, that was showing her that kind of guy is out there, and that's really what she wants. And so she, having a bit of discernment with the signs and not being sort of like, I've gone crazily down some signs being like, this is it. And then you're like, not really. Okay, cool. And that's a lesson too, because, when we get attached to the outcome, or we get, convinced that we know better than source or God or spirit, then that start to kind of be where they start to play back with us. And then from there, it's, if you're awake and aware, and you're you can trust that message is coming to you for a reason, then you can sort of rejigger that and be like, okay, cool, gotcha, that's not it, but it's something else, so keep moving forward. And I described this the other day as a little bit of like playing Operation. I think the unseen will give signs to us. And so if you get to the point where in your body and something is like, that sort of buzz of Operation, you're hitting the edge, you're like, okay, that's not in that way, you're going to like start going a bit more this way. And then if you go on this direction and you hit this other bit, you're like, bzz, that's maybe not the direction I meant to go in either. So that, it really is this game. We're in this like Mario Brothers, fruit coming down, bonuses going off, pinball machine concept with each other, bouncing back against all these other people, the having faith that the people that come into your life too are meant to teach you something. I mean, that takes a lot of courage to be open to that, to not see someone that maybe betrayed you or broke your heart or really hurt you was there for you to learn something. That's the divine at work. And sometimes I certainly needed a wake up call to the degree that I got it, because I wasn't paying attention and I wasn't listening and I wasn't solid in my foundations with myself. And I think the strengthening of the muscle of faith is about strengthening our foundations with ourselves, with our Creator, with Source, with God, with love, with everything, and then having the joy and the courage to continue to follow those signs. So thank you for being here. As a little recap, I think that having sort of the courage to follow our dreams and to follow our heart, that's another way to strengthen the faith, is to follow your heart. Because, and as much as this is not a recap, I've got on another tangent, but like, Spirit is not here to lead us astray. Like, that's just one thing. It's like a GPS, right? I don't know how many of you have got into a car and gone, like, it doesn't feel right. They're sending me in the wrong direction. And you start sort of like thinking you know better than the GPS. Like, it just doesn't do that. I mean, unless like you're in the desert and it doesn't have service and you're dropping in and out and it's like redirect or something, But on the whole, that is meant to take you exactly to the point that you've asked for. It may have a different route based on traffic and other things, but there is a sense of trust and faith, and this concept too of leaning into, don't laugh, I've completely forgotten what I was saying. What was this extra tangent? Stand by. Let me see if I can get it back. Let's see if this was meant to be, or if I really meant to close off. I know. Living through your heart. Ha ha! Yes. Living through your heart. Following your heart. I think everybody is in a very interesting state of their life right now with the current times. And I'm, in this social experiment with myself again, as I, playing all these little tests, about following my heart and trusting that strengthening of that muscle will open all of the doors. It'll bring me to all the places where the doors can open, and when I can see them, and when I open my eyes, I will have the opportunity to step into all the doorways, to at least look and see if they're the right ones and use my intuition or not, versus like missing all of this stuff because I'm not following my heart. And for anyone out there who needs a sign right now about where to go and how to make money and what to do, is follow your heart. Really, 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 really follow your heart. That's it. It's so simple. It's simple, but it's a practice, and it takes courage. And I honor you all for walking this path. If you've made it to this point, you're on some sort of quest. If you're listening to my voice today, there's no accidents. And I trust that whatever I have shared that has come from my heart, that has flowed freely from Source through to you, will bring you whatever you need to move you forward in your journey, to help you build the foundations, because only through foundations can we then stand in the times when things get rocky and wobbly. When the wind blows and the tornado comes, we are rooted and grounded in what we know of who we are, why we're here, what we want to do. And we might not have all the answers, and the answers might be shifting and changing. But part of it is, if we have that rooting and grounding in ourselves and that deep faith, which is actually in ourselves, because if we are God and God is us and you are me and I am you, I mean, none of this stuff I think you all know, this is Toni's lens, or, I'm channeling for you. But all of this stuff is the same stuff. This is, like before Christ, like this is not new. So I'm presenting it in my fashion, in my way, as, inspiration or conversation or dialogue for you and I, whether it telepathically in this moment because you're not physically with me, and who knows where you're going to be when you listen to this. But when you listen to this, let me tell you that you're loved and that you have everything you need. And as you lean in, I've used lean in a lot today, but as you remember who you are going to step in more and more and more and more to this deep faith, however it looks for you. You can put it in whatever outfit, build it into religion, no religion, unicorns or swashbuckling Renaissance fair people. Everybody is doing their own version of consciousness in some way. And my desire, my trusting with the earth and the universe and this interaction that we're having in this moment is that whatever you need, you got. Whatever sign you were looking for, it's going to be clear. And if it's not clear now, it will become so clear to you. Follow the signs. Follow your heart. Lean in. LOL. Just kidding. Serious. Testing yourself, throwing things out there as you're manifesting, throwing out some little things. Play with your own psychic abilities. Tune in. Listen. Deeply, deeply listen. Get quiet. Be in solitude. Say no to the things that don't make your heart sing. Say yes to the things that make your heart sing. Lean in further. Build the muscles. Create the foundation. And then revel in the beauty and then have fun. Have fun always. But really have fun. That's it. I love you. Thank you for listening. And I'll see you when I see you. Bye.